Give to Jayden Terry, starter step, up the middle of the field, 40, big hole 50, he's gone 45, at the 30, left sideline 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Jayden Terry. The tank with an answer. Give read option keeper, whole bunch of space, at the 40, got the 35, 30, up the middle of the field, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Bryce Underwood. And welcome to Game Night. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Tim with you here. Taking it the 14-yard line with a feet offset by Tyson Mann. Shimmies over the 30. Burst of speed at the 40. Right sideline 50. Able to get away from a tackle. Walking the tightrope at the 30. 25-20. All alone. 10-5. Touchdown Granville. Snap to Underwood from the gun. Fake handoff on the RPO. Thrown left side. Caught Yarbrough. Sidesteps the defender at the 5. Walks into the end zone. Touchdown Belleville. The Tigers put it away. 34-17. They're going to go back-to-back. On fake handoff, keeper left side over the 45-yard line, upside the number to the 40, 35-30, left sideline 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown, 7 touchdowns for Mason McKenzie, and Caledonia has just about served this one up on ice. Hello YouTube, hello world, we're back, week 2 tailgate report. Again, first off, apologies that we weren't on the air last week. Like I said, my fault. Blame him for it, though. But I was tuned in at least from my hotel room through 2 different streams because there was a weather delay and it went long, and I know exactly the panic that I'm sure was involved in getting the huddle cam back up and whatever, but very glad that I was able to watch. I was able to live tweet. It was actually kind of fun being a team social media manager, I felt like, for a little bit. Mm-hmm. But within all of that, Granville, convincing win week 1, a lot of really interesting results week 1. And Chandler, that's where I will send it over to you because I actually think, in general, let's talk first, week 1, we learned, I think, a lot of things. We still have a lot of questions because we're easy and no conference play hasn't begun yet. Yeah. But I think in terms of sizing things up and kind of getting confirmations on some things we were thinking, I think we got a lot of them in week 1.
Yeah, I think a lot of things you can take away from week 1. I was unable to watch the game live as you were Thursday night there. I was able to go back and watch it on YouTube. One of the beauties of with the setup we have at Granville there and the things that have been going on. So able to go back and quick go through the game as following along on Twitter as well. And yeah, just a lot of positives, I think. When you look at the final score, of course, you see a good result there for the Bulldogs, and you kind of dive into some of the bigger plays, some of the numbers, and the rest of the game as you look closer, and a lot of positives. The offense putting up some points. Obviously, the huge performance from Jayden Terry that we'll talk more about. The defense looking strong and really holding the score pretty low and limiting the amount of points they're giving up until late in the game. And so I think a lot of the things that we talked about that we were looking for going into the season, you see some really good signs early on in week 1.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll touch on more of that. Oh, by the way, we forgot to preview. He's on the graphic. We have Jayden Terry on the show today. Actually, just talked to him before we started recording this really great interview. So we will have Jayden for this. We'll have him as part of our pregame coverage like we do. And like you mentioned, the YouTube broadcast when Granville is home. Yeah, we will have our own video feed that you can watch through our platforms. But also, I think the plan should be that we'll plug in to that huddle cam in the future. So if that's where you like to watch through and maybe a little bit higher, here's what we need you to do. Is I need you to click on our broadcast and put that up, and then maybe just mute it in the background, and then you can put that one up too. And then you can watch it there, or vice versa, or something, then we get to click on both. But maybe a little bit higher quality video. I mean, it's the huddle cam, so it's whatever. You know the huddle cam versus us, kind of where it's at. But we should hopefully be on there. That's still a couple weeks away from the next time Granville is home, but we'll be there as well. Again, like the video, subscribe here on YouTube, please, whatever, to spread the word. Follow us on social media at MI Game Night on Twitter X. I'm too lazy. I'm not changing the logo yet on all the graphics and all the everything. At some point I need to, but I'm not going to yet. I'm hoping Elon will just change it back for me because that's a lot of work to change all the graphics, and the color works and it circles on a lot of them. That's whatever. Buy merch, remember, at MichiganGameNight.com, MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. You can link to there. buy some merch. We'll push that more. We actually have some more samples coming for each of us, so we'll actually be trying to wear that merch once again in the weeks that come. I'm not even wearing anything MGN today. That's how much I've dropped the ball on trying to show off the brand. But yeah, so we'll get to all that. I think that's a good, quick synopsis. Everything going on. Granville beat Grand Blanc. Good for them. Other teams, the OK Red, won big, made a statement. We'll get to that as well. But with that, let's step aside. Let's get it to Jayden Terry, and then we'll come back to talk a little bit more about Granville Grand Blanc.
I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities. I've heard it said that professional coaches measure success in rings, college coaches measure success in championships, and high school coaches measure it in titles. But youth coaches measure success in smiles. At Centennial Securities, we're like the youth coach. Our success is measured by the smiles on the faces of our satisfied clients. If you're a Centennial Securities customer, you know what I mean. If you're not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FINRA.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Tailgate Report. Now we go to this week's interview, and it's one that I'm sure a lot of people were expecting, and I think everyone's excited to hear because this young man is simply becoming one of the best players in the state already. As a sophomore, he's coming off an absolutely unreal performance in Week 1, 5 touchdowns, nearly 250 yards. Jayden Terry joins us now here on Game Night. First, Jayden, thanks for your time, and how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you, and let's get right into it. First, let's talk about it from the team perspective because you guys come in second straight year, opening the year against Grand Blanc. This time you get to host them. Both sides of the ball, you look very, very good. The offense looks good. Tell me about kind of the solid team win and the confidence and importance of being able to win Week 1 the way you guys did.
It was amazing. You know, being able to host them this time, we had a lot of pump in us. Like we were excited. So we came in this ready to go. We were excited to play. We had to get us a win here. Especially playing at the Bulldog Stadium. So. We were playing, doing our jobs, even after the delay, we came back. We got stopped like the first drive, but, it was still like a really good, like big excitement we had into the game.
Yeah, I tell you what, it was fun actually getting to be just a spectator or a fan, quote unquote, not calling the game. So I was certainly watching, from afar. That's all I did in my hotel room on Thursday night or whatever for the event I was traveling to cover. As I was tuned in, and one of the main takeaways I had from the game, you can talk about this, but tell me about the importance for a team and your mindset in winning Week 1 like that. Being 1-0, that has to be such a huge confidence boost, just in general, let alone beating a good team.
Yeah. Every team would love to, win Week 1, because the next week you got whoever you play and they're gonna be like, 0-1. We can't have that. We gotta start the season off good. Then we're building our confidence up. Getting our heads right. And then as the year go on, our confidence has started from the beginning and has been building up ever since. So it helps a lot coming off 1-0.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk about that team you guys do have Week 2 because this is a really, really tough and really exciting matchup. But sticking with Week 1, let's talk about you as an individual for a little bit. 5 touchdowns, 242 yards, was it? I mean, just tell me about how well you were seeing the field. Obviously, great blocking in front. I mean, individually, that is got to be the best performance you've ever had on a football field.
Yeah, it is. And I was shocked myself. I'd never had a game like over 2 touchdowns last year. So like to be able to even get 3, I was excited. And then when I put up 2 more, I was just pumped up. My teammates were happy for me. And I was happy because I had the great blocking. I was looking back at the film. I was like, oh yeah, I see Daniel pushing me, getting me 10 yards. And I'm like, This is a great team. This is a great blocking we have up front, and I just want to thank them for that because I couldn't have done it without them, and that was just wild for me. Like I didn't know how to react myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's kind of go in general, a couple things in terms of either your development and so forth. But first off, I want to tell me a little bit about. You obviously come from such a great football family. Your dad with the history he had, of course, your older brother Cam, you have a younger brother as well. But tell me about, in particular, looking at your dad, looking at your brothers, the importance and the role they've played in you helping develop as a running back.
Yeah, they trained me. We were always trained, and ever since we were like little, like real little. Like I started playing at like 5 years old, tackle football at 5 years old, and for my dad to be coaching me at running back, he was a good player. So to have him coach me at the age of 5 really helped me, get better. And then my brother watching how he plays, that really helped me too. And then that's how I want to be with like my kids when I'm older, or my little brother. Like it's like I want to keep the legacy going on, because it's really special right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at your summer, because, again, reminding everyone, this kid is just a sophomore when we're about to talk about some of the things he did. But, this summer, I know you were at a lot of different camps and showcases, and I know Coach McElwain and CMU, have an offer out to you as well, and a lot of other top-level coaches that you've talked to. Tell me about kind of some of the highlights of your summer, some of the different places you went to, just kind of some of the highlights of this summer, your freshman and your sophomore year.
Okay, obviously the real big highlight was getting my first offer after a camp. That was real special. I'm not even lying. Like we were doing one-on-ones, and Coach Petrino came. Not even Coach Petrino. It was the head coach. The head coach came up to me, and he gave me the offer like straight up, like after my first rep
That's
of
awesome.
One-on-one. And I could even focus in on the next rep of one-on-ones, because I was just so geeked up. I was so, hyper. So I had no clue what to think about that. And then all the other schools that I've been to, they were just awesome, being able to, show out against, some schools like Michigan State, Western, like those schools like that. And there was other schools that I couldn't even go to, like Florida sent me an invite, and Maryland, but there was just bad timings. I'm trying to hit them up maybe this upcoming summer.
All right, that's awesome. I mean, I know last week on the show I made a little bit of a joke as well, but I just want to also put out for the record, Mike Hart, Jim Harbaugh, get on it. Get on it with this kid, please. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was such a cool thing to be able to watch your development as a player. Again, we've said it too. Like, we first saw your film when you're like, a sixth grader, and all this is kind of coming up. Like, what is this kid gonna be? Then he's on the roster as a freshman, and like, oh, that's what he's gonna be. And then it turns into what we saw this summer. And I mean, we still have all this season and 2 more years, and I can't wait personally to see where that's gonna go. Let's close it out. Let's look ahead to this week, because I know you guys are just getting in your preparation for the week, but still a short week. Game on Thursday. Davison, they just beat De La Salle. De La Salle might be among, if not the most talented team in the state that doesn't have Bryce Underwood on their team, quite frankly. This team is tough. They're physical. They have a lot of skill. Tell me about some of the things you're prepping for, because it's going to be a really, really tough matchup this week and a chance to really make a statement on the road.
Just to, stay with our heads straight, not get too big up on the who they just beat and who they have on their team. Obviously they have good players, but we gotta not just focus on who they have, and focus on what we have and what our keys are for the game. And I just want to say, I want to throw this out here too.
All right.
AJ Hill, me and him went to some camps together.
Okay.
He's a phenomenal player. Me and him were competing at some camps like Michigan State and Toledo, I know for sure. And yeah, he's a good player, and it's going to be exciting to compete with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's actually something we had for some of our breakdown highlighted, because the running back battle between the two of you is certainly going to be quite something in this game, and as good of one as I think you are going to find. All right, Jayden, thank you so much for your time. Really, really great stuff. good luck this weekend, and good luck moving forward as well.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
All right, Jayden Terry joined us here on Game Night. Thanks again for his time. We'll be right back here on MGN. All right, and thank you again to Jayden Terry for coming on this week. Great interview. Great to talk to him. Like I said in the interview, Jim, Mike, get on it. Because we don't need him going other places in the state or other places elsewhere, because I do think this kid actually is going to be very special going forward. So get on it. Let's get into it. Granville 41-13 over Grand Blanc. Will have kind of part of the game up on screen, Chandler, but 1,000-foot view, second straight year. They beat Grand Blanc. They get to 1-0. The offense rolls, looks very confident. Cash Ruff has a touchdown on top of it. We were curious, how is he going to be able to slide in first game without a broken hand operating the offense, and everything looks really good on that end. Some explosive players for Grand Blanc were slowed down for the most part on offense as well. I think just really the solid win that you pretty much as you could probably have asked for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think really all around solid performance. When you look at offensively picking up, as you expect this Granville team to do quite often, is you really don't have a lot of questions about the offense. I think when you had Jayden Terry coming back, you kind of knew he was going to be the guy out of the backfield and that they were going to feed him a lot, and then just kind of getting guys eased into it from there. When you've got Cash Ruff, as you said, getting his a true start and under his belt, a complete game, healthy, out there, and then kind of getting the rest of the offense going along with that. Of course, a lot of experience in that backfield and on the offense as a whole. So the way that they were able to immediately jump into things, kind of take some of the pressure off the defense right away, build up that 14-0 lead, was big. And the defense really played a solid first half and really a complete game. But early on, especially taking Grand Blanc out of it, getting their offense out of rhythm a little bit, and frustrating them to the point where they were able to get out to a nice lead.
Yeah, and so what is it? 421 yards offensively for the Bulldogs on the ground. Sorry, 421 on the ground plus 13 in the air. So essentially 421 is what was needed. They score 6 touchdowns on the whole. Jayden talked about in his interview a lot of really good pushes up front. This offensive line looks exactly like we thought it would be. I think that's the first thing I want to talk about is I think this offensive line that we knew were maulers and we knew were really good, I think, Chandler, they're exactly what we thought they could be.
Yeah, last week we talked about the depth that they had and moving some guys around, and just from tight end to tight end on either side, the amount of blocking ability and size that they've got up front there is really going to make things easy in the running game. I think they're going to win a lot of matchups that way, and going against the Grand Blanc team that it's kind of been transitioning from being more of a spread and team with a lot of athletes on the outside, hearing their coaching staff talk about wanting to be a smash mouth team. Talk about a kind of a tough way to open up your season going against Granville when you've got to face that front on the offensive side. That's going to be a tough one for any team, even if you are a smash mouth type of team. But the way that and the type of movement that the Bulldogs were getting along the line is definitely a great sign.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And let's talk about him. He was just on. Jayden, again, 242 yards, 5 touchdowns. The 5 touchdowns weren't even really, some were good. They're mostly goal line pushes. And by the way, he has a knack of wriggling into the end zone. That's the one, he kept getting at the goal line, but he also kept scoring on his first attempt, trying to wriggle into the end zone. But there also had 2, I think there was one may have been a gap scheme, a power play. One may have been more of a stretch, more of an outside zone-ish type run. Everything's going to have a little bit different way that it's set up, of course, in the T, and I'm not going to claim to be a football or a T expert on what to call everything, but a couple runs where he was able to bounce it to the outside and went for 50 and 40 on different runs. They may have been the most impressive runs. I think a complete performance, though, from Jayden Terry, and it was kind of like a good way of showing the hype right away. It was not misplaced.
Yeah, I think strong out of the gate. It's always a good thing when you've got Jayden Terry. All the hype building throughout the offseason, and then to come out right away with a huge performance in week 1 just to get things started off on a roll right away. a lot of long runs, some of the ones that didn't result in touchdowns. I mean, there were long runs down the field, 40, 50 yards, where they're getting set up right on the goal line, and of course then he's punching it in. And I do think, kind of the easy thing to say is, from 1 to 2 yards out, you're just falling into the end zone, but it's definitely more than that. I mean, after
teams have 11 players in the box anyway against them, let alone at the goal line,
especially against the Bulldogs. I mean, they have the opportunity to throw the football, and they do, but with how much they run the ball, especially when you get on the goal line, there's a high percentage it's going to be a run play. Other teams know that, and you're coming right at them, and so there's definitely a skill in finding the end zone even when you're that close to the goal line. So regardless of how long those touchdown runs were, still an amazing performance all around. Yeah,
and that just when you started talking, I think maybe in the play he talked about in his interview possibly, where I think it was Wiley pushed him, but he was a big part of making it happen. There was the Cash Ruff touchdown, by the way, while I'm talking on the bootleg keeper, but he was initial contact and the pile was made at the 35, and he pushed his way all the way to the 25 or 20, just pushing 4 guys in the Grand Blanc pile. So there's some power there, along with the speed, of course, as well. I mean, he was he really truly is kind of what he's. Let me make a quick appeal. We had a clip that went out on the Instagram last week, and in it we picked our players of the year. Chandler's smiling off camera. Within this clip, yours truly said kind of skill position, the player of the year, Jayden Terry, then also made the prediction of Mike Medeiros as, a guy, if Granville's going to be what I thought they'd be, and I also predicted Granville to win the conference. We all know what I predicted. Now, I saw on that clip, there were a lot of shares and a lot of people bookmarking this thing. I'm assuming I know why that is, and it probably wasn't for positive reasons. I just want to let everyone out there from Caledonia and Rockford in particular know, here's where we are after 1 week, okay? So just bear with me, because I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to know what I'm talking about in the long run. And he won't correct me, because he knows his place. And when Nate says stupid stuff, he just sits there and smiles, and he knows and he agrees, and we know it's going to work out. So there's my point that I want to make. But through 1 week, also, if you don't have Granville in your top 10 in the area, this is another appeal to other people. I'm going on a rampage now. Why? Because, and I saw certain people, Snooze, a great warrior for the Granville cause also, he and I saw the comments out there as well. Well, here we are 1 week into the year. If they lose to Davison. But I'm just letting everyone know, stop complaining, because the people that know. So that's what, we have a segment coming up at the end of the show about week 1 overreactions. Is Nate there? Who knows? Where were we? Cash Ruff.
Yes.
Really, really solid in his first performance. Had the touchdown, ran the offense well. They didn't ask him to do too much, threw the ball a couple times, and he didn't have to do too much, and he didn't do too much, which is a lot of times the most important part of a quarterback in this system.
Yeah, I think exactly what you wanted to see out of Cash Ruff in week 1 when you got a guy stepping into a bigger role as a quarterback like that, and you talked about going into the season about the potential that he has, and you definitely know that he's got a big arm, is a good athlete all around, and really has a high ceiling when it comes to what he can be for this offense. But I think the biggest thing too is just playing within the offense and just handling the intricacies of running the T. It's something that the Bulldogs have had a luxury the last couple of years with the previous starting quarterbacks, Carson Smith, Ian Sanders, all those guys just running the offense, doing what their job is, not necessarily being a game manager, but also just executing the offense and knowing where the football has to go at all times and knowing their role within it. And then, of course, stepping up and making the big plays when they have to. And I think that's what you like to see out of Cash Ruff in week 1. There's going to be opportunities for him to really have a big performance, and I think he's going to be asked to be the guy maybe a little bit more when the attention is taken away from him. But I think a good performance in week 1 for just running the offense and putting up some numbers, even though it wasn't a ton through the air. Yeah,
there's a couple teams out there, I think, that that he's going to have to win the game for Granville, quite possibly, when it comes down to it. And I think he definitely has a good chance to do that. Let's talk about the defense a little bit quickly in that performance. They give up a couple touchdowns. Both those touchdowns kind of coming on a little bit bigger plays where guys kind of snaked into the secondary, maybe broke a tackle or two and were able to get free. This is a pretty speedy, still Grand Blanc team out wide, but I think on the whole, I think it's a good job of the Grandville defense limiting some of the big playmakers. I still think there's one thing to take away when you look at some of those big breakout speed and space plays. I think the coaching staff there would probably be the first, to tell you that that's probably when you're looking at Rockford and Caledonia, and we'll get to them, in particular what they're doing. Davison this week, that's part of where they're going to have to be able to key in. But with such a young linebacking core and secondary, I think you can expect things to get better in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you're looking for one area of concern off the previous game, I think that's maybe it is just some of the to me it looked more like tackling in the secondary than the second and third levels, the linebackers.
And again, they were like
safeties.
6 hours into the night by the time that's happening.
It's been a long night. If week one, that can be kind of a tough task when you're that late into the night, and it's understandable to some degree there. So I think not too much to take away, not an overreaction there. I think. Sorry,
this play right here, the quarterback, it was over his head and then weaves, and this is great timing. Yeah. Weaves and does all this and gets big yardage out of it. It was plays like that. It was that, and it was a screen were really the two biggest plays that they gave up. And it's so again, for the most part, they did limit things. Again, sorry to cut you off, but a perfect example. It really just kind of is going to come down to, we know what Caledonia and Rockford, and I know Caledonia threw the ball very effectively the first week of the year, and it looks like they're going to be a team that's going to pass the ball better this year than they did last year, maybe, or at least focus on it more. That's where you're going to have to focus, I think, in the red, and where your defense is going to be.
Yeah, I think I was impressed with some of the pressure and the movement along the defensive line that they had, stopping some of the run game, getting after the quarterback, bringing some looks off the outside, whether that was from the outside linebacker or safety corner, bringing some blitzes off the outside. I think they did a good job. I liked the looks that they were throwing out there. I think kind of prepping some of those looks that they're going to need in order to stop the Rockfords and Caledonias of the world. And yeah, the bigger plays just coming on some missed tackles, and of course that's going to be huge in slowing down some of those offenses. You can't have that, but overall, I think a strong performance for the defense.
Yeah, and again, despite that, they give up a couple bigger plays, but still they only give up 13 points in the game. So I think all things considered in that regard, very good. There's one of the bigger plays that kind of led to a touchdown behind. Oh, you didn't see it. Whatever. Again, great producer on the show, as everyone watches me type on the computer and I say that. So yeah, I think that's really a good breakdown initially of kind of where we're at with this team. Let's just keep this segment rolling, shall we? By the way, Chandler starts his flag football season tonight, which I know is something we've had a lot of fun with in the past. Are you going to be on the line again this year?
That is the plan currently, no. Yeah. Okay. We're trying really hard to recruit some guys to fill in on the line so that maybe I wouldn't have that responsibility, but it's looking like I'm going to be.
You do have some ringers, though. You've got some state champions and some different pieces that have plugged in.
That conveniently all play receiver, so that means
conveniently.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes this year. So that's going to be Chandler's. Well, again, we need a clip. There's a missing clip from a couple years ago of him getting utterly trucked to the ground that just cannot. This clip doesn't exist, unfortunately, and we desperately need that recreated, and that's going to go in the intro to the show. It'll probably be the first scene. So right now it's the Jayden touchdown. Yep. The first scene will probably be you getting trucked.
Okay.
And then I'm going to call it, and then I'll do a call for it, and then we'll go into that.
Okay.
That's honestly, we should do, rather than this show some week, we should do a broadcast. I should do a broadcast of your game. Yeah. We can mic you, and then we can, if that's good, we can mic you, and then we'll do it.
Okay. I'd be in. I mean, I'll try to work on not getting run over. I think maybe we could just skip over the offensive side of the ball. You don't have to film me doing that. You can film me on defense.
Okay.
Had a pick six a year ago, so that was my highlight. I think if you could get that on film, that'd be even better. But
no, it wouldn't be. Okay. That's not what the people want to see. Listen, I know how the internet works. People don't care. Granville, Davison. Well, this game, I texted you when I saw the score, and they started. Actually, this was a game at Atwood Stadium, where we were last year, where they have great internet, by the way. Ish, not really, as the feed dropped on us 4 times. But regardless, I tell you what, I'm all over the place today. I just finished, obviously, a race weekend, like you said. I've been driving from St. Louis since whenever I left this morning, pretty much went right into this. So this is going to be an absolutely unhinged show. It already has been. This is going to be an unhinged show. I'm not cutting anything.
All right.
So just, please, okay, just want that to know. So every time I go into these all over the place ADHD moments, just know I am mentally not there with anyone right now, and I'm filming this for everyone. So just know that. Okay, so Davison beat De La Salle, though, 31-26. They make a comeback. Actually, the Lightning getting to play the second half of the game on their home field helped lead that comeback. But, De La Salle, again, we called them the best team money could buy last week. But, I mean, joking aside, most talented team in the state that doesn't have Bryce Underwood, and maybe even including teams that have Bryce Underwood. And for Davison to go out and beat them like that, I think we had talked that I had talked to Lisa. My thought was this game was going to be difficult because it was going to be like a really, really mad Davison team off of an 0-1 start against a great De La Salle team. They definitely would want to get 1-0. And now it's a tough game because they're 1-0 after beating maybe a top 2 or 1 team in the state. So that's kind of the first setup is like before we've been getting to breaking it down, this Davison team is really, really good, and this could be a huge statement. You think I was unhinged on the Granville praise this week. I mean, if they win this game, it could really, and we'll talk about what losing this game means versus, winning and whatever, but there is a statement on the road to be made by the Bulldogs, possibly.
Yeah, there sure is. I mean, you think we talked about the Bulldogs and their win, and you feel like they've got some momentum coming off from that week 1 win, and then you look at Davison and what they did, and then, of course, a De La Salle team that everyone knows the talent, and I still think a really good team there that this loss doesn't take anything away from what their season is going to be, but just the way the Davison team responded, I think you can't overlook, as you mentioned, the pause at halftime there is having to resume the game later. I think definitely helping out the Cardinals and what they were able to do in that comeback, but still, I mean, to beat a team like that, to come back, a pretty low-scoring game most of the way until kind of turning into a shootout in the fourth quarter, but I still think watching some of that footage from that game, a Davison team that everyone knew was going to be good. It's just a matter of how good, and beating a team like De La Salle kind of sets them up that they might have a special season there as well. We'll see what that brings week 2 against a Granville matchup.
I saw a preseason story on them, and they were talking. I know most teams talk this, but they were kind of talking. We want to get back to our championship type, play, and part of it's because they're going to be led by a really, really great two-way, but especially middle of their defense guy in Carter Harriman, senior middle linebacker, kind of power running back as well. He is on his way to Miami of Ohio. He's one of those guys, and this is where it's important about Granville and what they do offensively. He just is one of those guys that just kind of soaks up everything in the middle of the defense. He provides some hard-nosed yards in the power run game, but led by Harriman, a defense that's big and traditionally very good against the run, that is going to be challenge number 1 for Granville offensively, is trying to deal with this hard-nosed team defensively.
Yeah, trying to figure out what they're going to do there. I mean, when you've got on defense a guy like that can play the middle linebacker, kind of obviously in the middle of the defense, and is strong in the run, knows how to come up and make the read, is going to be a smart player when you're going against the T, and understanding what the reads are defensively, where he's got to be, where the rest of the team needs to be, and then of course a guy that can fly around the field too and recover and make some plays even when the guy that he may be keying in on is not getting the football. So I think a major force there for the Bulldogs to try to figure out how they're going to get to that second level, what they're going to do, depending on where he'll be lined up exactly for the defense, but a way to get a body on him so that he's not wrecking your game plan in the backfield.
Yeah, absolutely. Quarterback position, Sawyer Glennie is a senior quarterback, a guy that they really like, and he's got a big arm, and he's able to spread the field, I think, pretty well, too. They have a lot of speedy targets. They have a great line, and they kind of want to be able to run the ball, but they want to run the ball in a capacity of getting a little bit of kind of speed and space as part of it, and that also is included in the pass game. And if there is any weakness that Granville winds up showing in the secondary, they better be ready to go, because this guy has the arm to be able to stretch the field and exploit that weakness.
Yeah, Sir Glennie, I think the way he was able to move around, delivered the ball down the field pretty effectively, able to get vertical, had some big plays in that comeback that really helped boost their offense down the field. I think you see a solid arm there, and I also was impressed with his mobility within the pocket, not necessarily even taking off and running right away, but the way, even on some design plays where they're moving the pocket, he's rolling out left or right, kind of avoiding, trying to take away and neutralize some of the pressure from the opposing defense, like what we saw the Bulldogs be able to do. I think look for them to use Glennie in that way to kind of move around the field, even by design at times, to try to buy some time and get down the field.
Yeah, and Jayden talked about it in his interview. One of the guys to watch is there's an unbelievable running back duel in this game because A.J. Hill is the junior back at Davison, and like Jayden said in his interview, they were going head-to-head all summer long at some of these different camps, so that's going to continue on in the field, and I don't think it's not too much of a stretch to say I'm sure that'll be in the back of the mind for both of them a little bit, and that they're trying to show out a little bit. This kid, though, Hill, it's kind of almost like, speaking about Jayden, he's really quick, so he's very good in that kind of zone spread run game. He also caught the game-winning touchdown leaking out of the back, or actually he caught that from the slot, so he will leak out into the slot to make plays. He'll leak out of the backfield. Quick runner. Hill is one of those guys that when you look at the way that they kind of space the field, yet they'll bring the it's Rockford, it's Caledonia, it's that type of power spread offense. Having a running back like A.J. Hill is what makes a team unbelievably dangerous and so difficult to defend because it's just he's a Swiss Army knife that provides speed and kills you in 5 different ways offensively.
Yeah, I think really is. I mean, a modern running back, when you look at it, when what the position has kind of become, especially in the upper levels, but you see it at high school a ton too, is a guy that if they want to lean on him heavily in the run game, they can do so. He can carry the ball a bunch of times. He's going to be effective, strong runner. He's going to rack up the yards there, but if the matchup and if it's required for the offense, then he's also able to catch the football, whether that's lining up in the backfield and running some routes from there, is on that game-winning touchdown where they can motion him out of the backfield and line him up outside, whether that's in the slot, and then have him run some routes. A guy that I'm sure could play receiver if that's what he wanted to do and if that's what they needed. But when you've got a guy with that kind of versatility that you can line up different places, it really is a matchup nightmare because you're just constantly trying to figure out where is he, what's he going to do, is he running, is he catching, where is he going to be, and can make a lot of headaches for a defense.
Yeah, I never like making comparisons to next level players with the guys just because it isn't fair to them ever. But the way they utilize him, if you watch the way Michigan wants to use Donovan Edwards, and the way Donovan Edwards was used a little bit, mostly his junior, before he became a Wildcat quarterback his senior year, but mostly his junior, where he can go to the slot, he can use, he can show his speed, he can do that. That's a little bit. He really is a really good utility guy, and the matchup with Jayden, who we just talked about what he is going to be really fun to watch. So that game, Thursday night, 6:30 at Davison. It's a road trip. And guess what? The outdoor boys are back. We're going to be outside for this one again, but thankfully it's going to be a high of 71, low of 50. It's going to be beautiful. It actually might be even better to be outside. So that's going to be really awesome. Like I said, I was in St. Louis this past weekend for the race I was working, the IndyCar race, and I was there. I got there Thursday, and it was more humid than it was in West Michigan. I'm not kidding, as it was Thursday, Friday, and Friday we hit 108. Wow. So I am very excited to get back into. I was so happy to be back in, and then it rained all day Saturday. So I'm very excited though to be back into the weather here and getting slightly a little bit more fall-like as we get into the season. So the outdoor boys are back, making their first appearance since we were. When was the last time we were outside? Oh, the Unity game where it was 4 degrees.
That's right.
So
yes.
The opposite. So it won't be that, thankfully. We may have a couple outdoor games coming up this year again. We'll see. I think Caledonia might be outside. We'll see. We'll break out. We're going to do it Harry Carey style from the bleachers. So mostly Chandler. Chandler will be shirtless and with a Budweiser.
Yeah.
That's how it's going to happen. That's how we're going to do with the broadcast from the bleachers. All right. We're going to take a break. When we come back, it's the OK Red and then the Power 6. So this is going to go well. This is going to be something.
Can you identify your number one personal trait? The thing that you do better than most others? If not, this may be a good time to think this through. If you're really good at writing, then why use the phone? If you're great on the phone, why use email? If you have exceptional human relation skills, why sit back and let others lead? I'm Randy Hansen, president of Centennial Securities Company. Playing to our strengths is something we do very well at Centennial. And if you're already a customer, you know what I mean. If not, isn't it about time?
Member SIPC and FIN.
Hey everyone, Nate Dreyer from MGN, and MGN merch now available for purchase, and we have got a ton of options. Here's where you find the new MGN shop. Go to MichiganGameNight.com. Many of you have probably been there before. Click on the shop merch tab. Many of you have probably been to the MGN page on Michigan Sports Radio. Click on the Buy MGN merch tab. It'll take you here. We've partnered with Teespring, neat company that allows for us to have a lot of different shirt designs. They'll print them, they'll make them, they'll ship them out to you. So a neat way that allows us to have a lot of offerings. We've got a ton of really cool t-shirts, hats, snapback, dad hats, beanie hats, water bottles, more t-shirts, more sweatshirts, just a ton of options. Really, just a ton of options that you're going to be able to look through and find exactly what you may want. We've done what we can, like I said, with Teespring to try to stack this thing. We'll have plenty more options that we'll put up on social media, but make sure you check it out. All right, here we go. Okay, Red. So you know the drill. We're going to, first I'll give some results quick, then we'll get into our rankings post week one. We'll see how much movement there was because it kind of mostly went to schedule, just as whether or not we're going, how much we want to move teams that did win and punish them or reward them for winning when other people won too. Then we'll get into our Power 6. And then also in this segment, we are going to do some quick week one overreactions, which we've already done 12 of. I've already done 12 of in this show so far. Chandler's just said smart things like he normally does, and then I've been unhinged. So here are the week one results. Granville takes down Grand Blanc 41-13 at Bulldog Stadium. Rockford played Friday. They go to Hackley, and they take down Muskegon 27-7. That, of course, is a really, really interesting result right there, and one that is to be noted. Caledonia beats a top 20 team in the state, top 10 based on where you may look at rankings, at the Big House, 35-28. So good, solid win. Brody Betzer, they do go a lot with the junior quarterback. He threw the ball very effectively in that game. East Kentwood beat a good Heartland team, 35-10. Hudsonville beat Howell, 28-2. And so all those teams won. All the teams we kind of expected to win within the OK Red did win. And then we get into the losses. Jenison lost to Forest Hill Central 37-9. Very tough week one. West Ottawa loses to Grand Ledge 37-30. You know, Grand Ledge, tough team to get a read on because we saw them last year, you know, after they had won a district, losing the regional championship game, but they lost, you know, big-time pieces from that regional championship team. That was a last-minute loss at West Ottawa at the Death Star Stadium. And then maybe the most standout to some regard loss, 41-13. Grand Haven loses to Reese Puffer in their annual week one game. So let's kind of get into those week one rankings here first. Chandler, I'll let you start. Get me your 8 through 6 to open.
All right, 8 through 6. Actually did not have any movement from my week one or preseason rankings that I had. I'm going to leave Jenison at 8. Got Grand Haven 7, West Ottawa 6. Kind of conveniently worked out that to some degree it was by how big the loss was, even though that's not what I really had planned. But I think West Ottawa probably the most impressive of the losses, the closest, as you mentioned, only 7 points there against a Grand Ledge team. That might be decent. But then Grand Haven and Jenison, both big losses there. So really not a ton of takeaways for me in the bottom 3 to separate what I had going into the season.
Yeah, and I have the same bottom 3, which did change a little bit because I believe I had West Ottawa ahead of Hudsonville after the first week of the year, fairly or not to have that. I think I did have Jenison last. I've moved them. So I have Grand Haven last now. Okay. I have Jenison just above them, and then I have West Ottawa. The only thing to choose between the two is I do think Forest Hill Central is as good or better than what they were last year. It's going to be real tough for anyone to go in and score on them, especially. And I think Reese Puffer is okay, but that's a smaller division team by a division or two from a little bit lesser conference. That's a team that's going to be the middle of their own conference, and that's a loss to Grand Haven, again, first-year coach, and that's kind of what to be expected, I think, to some extent, out of them in that regard. So that's where we have that. That's not, nothing too exciting right there. Let's do 5 and 4, and then let's do the top 3, because I think that's how the tiers are breaking down essentially. I'll go. I got Hudsonville 5, East Kentwood 4. I thought about moving Hudsonville up, maybe even more, but East Kentwood also really impressive win over Heartland, so that's where I'm going to have that one. And you?
Yeah, I totally agree there. I've got Hudsonville 5, East Kentwood 4. I think impressive win for Hudsonville. Had some questions about them where they would be going into the season, so I think a good start for them and a unique score there, 28-2. But I think both of these teams, looking ahead at the schedule, have a little bit better test coming up. Hudsonville, East Lansing this week, I believe, and East Kentwood against Byron Center, team that had a big win in week 1. So I think we might get a little bit better idea when they face some tougher opponents in week 2. But I think for right now, I'm going to leave them the way I had them with Hudsonville 5, EK 4.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. We're going to learn so much, I think, this second week of the season. We were able to kind of get a baseline of okay, things are where we got a baseline of mostly things are where we thought we were. And essentially it was a week 1, at least for me, in terms of what I had, some of the quote-unquote bold opinions of dropping Hudsonville down, and it wasn't necessarily there, and everyone kind of settled into the tiers, the 3 tiers that we kind of outlined on that first show. Everyone kind of settled into them, how we expected. All right, the top 3. I'll just go. All right. I did actually move them. I was actually a hypocrite. So again, one team, they all won, in theory, they all won. They all beat good teams. I should have kept them all where they were, in theory. That would be fair, right? But I moved them because I was so impressed with one of the wins, but also I didn't want to put that team at 1. So everyone knows exactly what I did before I even say anything. Because I'm getting... It's Granville versus 2 fan bases that I'm going to be warring with by the end of this year. And I don't even like Caledonia in particular. I'm a big Caledonia fan. We did their whole playoff run. We'll probably do their playoff run again if they go on one. And if Granville's not still going, which I don't necessarily think will be the case, but whatever. But that's what it's going to become here. I made the comment about the holding calls in the last show. I have Caledonia 3, though. Again, good team they beat at the big house. It's probably not fair to even look at what the score was. The fact that they won the game, we know. We've seen what happens at that big house. That was the stupidest football game. When Granville played that game a few years ago against Steve South, I've never seen more dumb stuff happen than when you put high school kids in the big house in my life. But regardless, it was that whatever they. Yes. I'm gonna move Rockford to 2 because they did beat the team that I had as what I believe the best team in West Michigan. They beat them pretty soundly from the beginning as well. I think the score was almost closer down the stretch than what the game was early. It was impressive, and I'm scared. I am scared. I'm scared that
there it is.
It's happening again. I'm scared. And then I'm gonna keep Granville 1 because until they lose, I'm not moving them. So that's my top 3.
Okay. So I'm doing this live in my head right now. You're seeing if you can convince me here because the way I had them last week is what I was going to leave it as. But I think the more I'm thinking about it, I need to make a move. So I think what I'm going to settle on is I've got Caledonia 3, Granville 2, Rockford 1. I'm going to be the
people hate you.
Yeah. I know. I'm going to be the opposite of what you're going for here. And
what you're going for, it's a whole shtick.
Yeah, right.
Is it?
Well, we may never know. But no.
Does he own the company and know where the bread is buttered? We may never know.
Yes. No, as you said, all 3 teams, impressive wins over good teams, so you can't really knock anyone for that. So I have a hard time making a move, but I think just when you look at the win Rockford had over a team we hyped up, or I at least hyped up in Muskegon, thinking that there was a good chance they were beating Rockford, and that was going to be a statement win the other way. When Rockford goes out and dominates it, it's really hard for me not to bump them up. I think a lot of the questions I had about them, that, they're losing quarterback, losing playmakers, were answered when they go out and beat a Muskegon team. So I think it's hard
defense.
for
That's what's scary, because the defense was maybe going to be the weak point. And the defense, I mean, this is a Muskegon. I saw them at that scrimmage. They went head to head with Belleville's line pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they got pushes, they got D1 guys, like, and the Rockford like in the trust tree here of us and our audience. The defense, if you're the rest of the OK Red, like, the offense you knew was going to be there, and Jason Vanderlaan was only to get better in running the offense, but like the defense, and of course Vanderveen, and we know the defense always finds a way at Rockford, but like, the defense is where the questions kind of were, and they answered them like right away. Like there is reason to be. The OK Red does need to be on notice that and the thing is, they win it every year still. So we talk like they won it last year. We forget they won it last year. Like, Caledonia took all the hype because of the run they won. They won it last year. Yeah. They won it the year before. They won it the year before when they beat Grant. Like they win it every year still. So like it, but again, everyone's been putting on notice that what maybe was going to be a down year might not be for Rockford, and so that's they were the winner of week one, I think, of all teams from around. I think everyone got their win. Caledonia feels really, really good. Of course, they should. And Caledonia, we are underhyping how big of a win. That's a good Romeo team. Their offense did what they wanted. The newish look offense, they did what they wanted to do. Granville, we of course hyped up what that win should be. But in terms of West Michigan, in terms of maybe the state of Michigan, Rockford with the feel-good win of week one. Want to do some power sixing? Let's do some power sixing. So Granville, Rockford for the OK Red. Let's get into the OK Green just right away, because that's where, again, there may be some change. This is where we do these rankings week by week. Yep. So the preseason one is a projection. This is a week-by-week power ranking. So essentially, we're going to be forced to change it. Even if we still think that it will go one way, we'll probably be forced to change it potentially a little bit. I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, this is one of the tougher ones of the list we're going through here. I just talked about Muskegon taking the loss against Rockford. I still think they're probably winning the conference. I still think they're going to. I will say Zeeland West had a strong win in week one.
Looked very good.
I think those are the two teams it's going to come
Shores
down to.
did as well, but the team Mona Shores played from Manitowoc Lincoln. It's tough to get. Let me put me on camera actually while I'm talking. From Manitowoc Lincoln, they're a fairly solid team. It's tough to compare. They're kind of a 500-ish team over there, but it's tough to exactly compare. So I think you have to put more credence behind the Zeeland West one over Lakeshore.
Yep. So I think for now I'm going to hold out faith. Muskegon's going to turn things around after week one and that matchup against Rockford. But I will say I think the gap in my mind, at least going into the season between Muskegon and Zeeland West, did get a lot closer.
No, I agree. So yeah, I'm going to have to move Zeeland West to 1 just because they are 1-0, and that's kind of how I'm going to do it. I do think Muskegon will still win. I still think, and we'll get into this with overreact. One of my overreactions we might make actually might be that everyone's overreacting to what should be an underreaction.
Okay, follow that.
Follow that. I still think Muskegon is going to be fine, but for the time being, Zeeland West, I think, deserves the praise.
Yeah.
To go to, like, they made the statement this week. OK White, Forest Hill Central. I mean, they came out, they did what we thought they would do to Jenison. Let's talk about the dark horse, because we both have been very high in Byron Center for a couple years. I remain that, and I still think if there's anyone that could mess up what's kind of been a pre-coronation for Forest Hill Central, it is Byron Center, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I can't argue with the Forest Hill Central pick, and I think a team that's going to have a really strong season, but I think Byron Center kind of hinted at that matchup earlier against East Kentwood in week 2. We'll get a better idea, too, of where they're at, a younger team that's been building now for a while, and if there's going to be a team that takes down Forest Hill Central, I think that's going to be it, but can't make that move just yet.
Yeah, nope. OK Blue, most of this conference won. One of the teams that did lose was Unity Christian. They lose to a good Whitehall team, so that's kind of tough. So for that reason, I will have West Catholic staying. Do you do the same?
I did.
Okay. So we have, and I think kind of similar to the last. It's a team that we had the first week. Everyone except Unity won, who I think is the main contender to their crown.
Yep.
But again, they have a little bit of what we should be doing. Well, you're doing it now. What we should be doing with Rockford, of you have to beat them to be able to to earn it. So we'll leave that quick. OK Gold. So this is one that is actually very similar to the OK Green to some extent in terms of how you want to talk about a team. Because, so like I had Catholic Central as my preseason pick. You had South Christian.
Yep.
Catholic Central lost 58-7 week 1. Now, who did they lose to? Let's take a little bit of research into who they lost to, because they played a team from Chicago, Loyola of Chicago. This young team has a young man named Fitzgerald that is their quarterback, very highly rated young player. His father is now an analyst or an assistant coach for this team. His father's name is Pat. His father, you may know, was a head coach at a Big Ten team that wears purple in the Chicago area somewhat recently. I don't know how much he's actually coaching the team. They say he's an assistant. But I say that to say they lost 58-7, and I think Loyola is a little bit bigger than they are too. Mm-hmm. They lost 58-7. But I'm not sure I've ever dismissed a 58-7 loss more than I'm dismissing this 50-point loss for Catholic Central. With that said, South Christian goes to 1 because you can't lose by 50 and stay atop the power rankings. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I totally agree there. I don't think you read too much into the GRCC loss there when you've got a team like that and you factor everything in. But I think having South Christian there week 1, of course, they got the win and looked pretty convincing in doing so, replacing a lot of the guys from their run last year. I think they solidified themselves as my top in the conference.
Can you imagine, though, just Pat Fitzgerald running around on the sideline as the assistant coach? Like, how long until he's calling for both sides of the ball?
Yeah, it might be already.
But right, I mean, again, his son, they have a lot of talent. Like Catholic Central may have just seen a team that's going to win a state championship in Illinois, and to win a state championship in Illinois, regardless of division, we were dealing with some of those, especially some of those Chicago private schools. We've seen it. I mean, we saw it with that Glenbard West team. I mean, a couple of years ago with Granville. That was a good Granville team, and that Glenbard West team, like for Granville to hang with them, and Glenbard West went on and nearly won the state championship in Illinois and beat some really good teams on the way. Like that's. I think they wound up ranked in the top 15 of teams in the country, I think, and they were still like third of teams in Illinois. So like, there's nothing more humbling for Michigan high school football than when they play a Chicago team, because it is crazy still some of the talent in that area, especially those private schools in that area. And the same thing if you're like in Indianapolis, kind of like Cathedral and some of the they essentially. So Indiana, if you don't know, has essentially a super league. Where essentially they kind of have like a no rules, like everyone can just kind of go like this kind of top division of the sport that some of the best teams play in. I think it's something Michigan should maybe think about, because then you can throw, you can put De La Salle, Belleville, Rockford into essentially, if you have a video jumbotron in your basketball arena, you have to play in this league. Yeah. If you have more than 2 helmets, you have to play in this league, and then that's essentially what it is. So yeah. We got one left. OK Silver.
Yes.
Easiest ranking of all time.
Yes.
Normally we don't know what to do. They all lost except Belding.
Yep.
So there you go. Congrats to Belding. My late pick from last week. Congrats.
Yep.
They all lost. That's the easiest thing. When I first looked at the rankings, I'm like, oh, this is easy. So I don't know where this is still going long term, but I feel like, it'd be a very, very tailgate report thing if one of us didn't pick the team that, when they all lost except one, but so be it.
Yep.
Belding, congratulations. You are 1-0, and you are the OK Silver Power 6 pick. Let's do some overreactions. Let's get out of here. Let's start with the one that I previewed a little bit.
Okay. My
My first overreaction is going to the OK Green. It's actually a 2-part one. First off, everyone is It is an overreact. Everyone, the overreaction is. Hang on. Pause.
Got yourself confused.
We're
here.
actually, yeah. We're leaving this in because you just saw my mind pretzel. And we're doing this on the close up. This is so bad. So essentially, if your reaction, I want to call out an overreaction. Let's do it that way first off. You look at a 27-7 score with Muskegon. Do not overreact to that. I think the baseline of everyone having a reaction, that's crazy. Because the other side, the flip side, is where the reaction needs to be. And actually, my overreaction is that Muskegon's still going to win a state championship. There's my overreaction.
Okay.
Or still be in that conversation. Here is my overreaction. And I mean this like big time, and I'm not sure this is an overreaction, but it probably still is because we're so early. MHSAA Division I, we have a Rockford problem. That's my week 1, my first overreaction. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think I was kind of looking at the same couple games that you were. I think the easy one is, you look at Rockford and you say week 1 win like that, they might have a serious team this year, a team that's even better in a good conference that could do some serious damage. So I think the overreaction there is justified, as you saw in my rankings for the OK Red. I'm kind of buying into that, so that's my overreaction. I also agree with you that I don't agree with the overreaction of Muskegon is now bad.
Yeah.
I think that's a false overreaction if that's how we're wording it.
I'm just trying to read what I had written here, and it makes no sense. I had a triple negative about this, and that's why I don't understand what I was trying to say right here. But essentially, it was don't overreact to Muskegon, overreact to Rockford.
Yes, I think that's what we came up with.
Overreaction number 2, staying in the OK Red. I don't necessarily mean this in terms of being a conference winner necessarily, but maybe sneaking in the top tier. Mean and tough Hudsonville might be back. 28-2. They only give up 2 points. They look physical. That's my next overreaction. Is we talked about it, this is a team that I think, in my opinion, tried to throw the ball, tried to be a little bit of a Rockford light the last couple years, and I think that's getting away. They should be the bunch of big farm boys that, there aren't a ton of big farm boy schools in the OK Red. They have a chance to kind of be that and be the physical mean mashers, and I feel like they got away from it. And 28-2 indicates a little bit of they got back to that some.
Yeah, I think maybe forced into it a little bit, as you said, but either way, a strong win there in week 1, and maybe getting back to we had kind of been down on them a little bit going into the season, thinking they're going to be more towards the middle of the pack. I still think that's probably where they end up, but I think the way they played gives them a chance against some of the top teams that we had ranked above them, and that they could play some closer games and have a chance to steal 1 or 2.
Yes. My last one that we can talk about, I wrote, Nate was more right than he even thought. That's our overreaction to week 1. So Nate said that this goes back to the Jayden Terry, the Grandville, every prediction I made week 1. I really wasn't wrong outside of Rockford being really good on any of it, but especially my Player of the Year stuff. I just want to say that I've said a lot of things this show, and I understand it might be an overreaction, but the overreaction is that everyone needs to take out of week 1 is Nate is more right than Nate even thinks he is.
Okay.
There is your week 1 takeaway. Is it an overreaction? No. Do you have any others besides what we talked about, or did we cover most of it?
Covered most of it. I think the one overreaction, I think maybe out of the blue, I think West Catholic may have the conference wrapped up. I don't know if that's an overreaction. It maybe is.
Unity losing. I mean, Whitehall's good, but yeah.
I think I had them picked going into the season. I think based on what I was able to see out of the conference in week 1, I feel like they've kind of got that one in a good spot. Of course, 8 weeks to go, but the overreaction there I think would be that they've got that one in the books.
And a lot of the conference actually won still, but they weren't playing teams that indicate a ton, and the one team that was playing a really tough, if Unity had found a way, and it was a kind of back and forth game, if Unity had beaten Whitehall, then it is a little bit of, there's something to be said of what's going on here. I don't hate that. I think it is obviously an overreaction week 1, but
that's the whole point, right?
That is the whole point. This segment did not work. Just didn't work. It probably won't be back again. Didn't work, but we try. We try for everyone. This was a terrible show, actually. One of our worst. The people will probably say it was good. I think it was one of our worst. Chandler, Thursday we're going to Davison, 6:30. Yes. We're outside. If it rains, I'm going to be so mad. It shouldn't. It looks beautiful. It's going to be such an exciting game. I'll kind of let you give your final thoughts on what we saw week 1, what we got coming up, getting on the air, whatever.
Yeah, I think we've got a really good matchup coming up. Excited to watch some and get on the call for some live football. Got a little taste of it and seeing and tuning in and watching around the area, but excited to be there in person on the call and get our first taste of some Granville football. I think it's a really good game. Both teams have a lot of momentum going into it, as we talked about. I think we'll learn a lot each season or each week, of course, as you go through the season. But I think this is a big one, the last non-conference game before you get into the OK Red, and a chance for both teams really to make even a stronger statement and start potentially 2-0.
Yep. Again, thank you to Centennial Securities, Farmers Insurance. We'll have more coming up on. Again, we've just had the generic Farmers Insurance logo the last couple weeks. We'll probably have that this week as well. We'll have kind of some announcements on where that's going, where some of the branding is, but they are back with us again this year. Centennial Securities, again, huge thank you. We'll have all that. We're going to debut slightly updated graphics package to our enhanced radio broadcasts. We'll see what else. We're working on a couple different features. I know we've done some of the live scoreboard stuff. We'll see what I'm able to get added and programmed in, but we'll have a little bit updated graphics package kind of built around this little gold element at the top of the screen, and a little bit cleaner, I think, than what we've had in the past. So we'll have that graphics package back. Again, video broadcasts are coming for Granville home games. We're going to use this camera that's on us, and it'll be good enough. Like I'll be up front with everyone. It's going to mostly be I'm running it, and it's going to mostly be like half the field at a time. It's better than you think. You can still see. I'm praying that there's not going to be a reflection when it gets nighttime. That's the one thing I wasn't able to test the other week. Otherwise, you're going to be watching us more than the game. But we'll see. So that's coming. We're working on. I'm actually still working on what graphics are going to look like and what. Because if you remember, we did a couple different things last year. They're using the real scoreboard or using actual broadcast graphics. I haven't decided. Like mostly, it's what we'll be able to handle as broadcasters / whatever. Chandler's taking stats when we do football games. It's actually the number one thing that, like, he actually takes, like, full stats. Most color guys can't do that. He takes, like, full stats during games, and that bails us out big time trying to, like, figure stuff out. So mostly, again, comes down to can Nate run the graphics, run the camera, and talk about the game at once? We'll see. Thankfully, I don't have to score basketball season. I had to run the camera, run the graphics, and I was scoring as we went.
Yeah.
So we made it happen, but I'm excited to get to do games, video football. I've actually I haven't done a video broadcast for football in like 3-4 years. You've never done it. Mostly, you get to talk more.
Yeah,
is the main thing. So people get to what they want more, and he'll talk more. We're rambling. 6:30 p.m. Thursday. MichiganSportsRadio.com/MGN. We'll be on the MGN YouTube. I think we'll be on the MGN Twitter X. I haven't tested if we can live stream still. I don't know if you need to buy Twitter to be able to have to stream still or not. So at minimum, we'll be on our YouTube. We'll be on the main feed on Michigan Sports Radio. That was live time. I was just thinking about that. Regardless, we'll see everyone 6:30. Granville, Davison. It's going to be a great game. Great game. Like, it's a big game. It's one of the bigger games, I think, in the state of Michigan, just in terms of figuring out where things are at. He is Chandler Timmer. I am Nate Dreyer. This was a terrible edition of the Tailgate Report, and we will see everyone for what will actually be a great broadcast Thursday night.